What's up, guys? I am Caleb Giddings.
I'm Keith Finch.
And I'm Jack.
Always Jack.
And
Jack,
here are our sponsors.
Oh, yeah, and sponsors. I was going to ask Jack where your mic with the pop filter is that you normally have.
I have a driver download issue right now, and it's not correctly displaying what I'm at. So like you plebeians, you newbies to podcasting, I'm having to use a less than great mic. So I'm sorry about my sound quality. I will sound like Keith and Caleb.
So we are going to talk about the Supreme Court decision here in a couple of minutes, guys. But we wanted to start the episode off with, well, if you're on TikTok, you've seen this go around where it's like, she's a 6, but blah, 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 or he's a 5, but blah, blah, blah. And we are doing one of those for guns. We're going to do one this week. And then I want you guys to send ones in, post them in the comments, or you can email them to me at, I don't have a GAT. Do we have a GAT Daily email that we could have them send this stuff to?
I'm pretty sure we do. I don't know exactly what it is.
All right, well, hang on. I've got a burner email that I am not.
Hey,
that I don't.
Editor at GAT Daily will get them to me.
Editor at GAT Daily, or you can send them to gunnutsmedia@icloud.com. That's my burner email, which I do actually check. But yeah, send those in after you listen to this one. So here is this one. She is a solid California 8. She carries a Roland Special AIWB and a Philster Enigma with an empty chamber.
I'm gonna have to take her to a 6.
Down to a 6 all the way?
All right, but she's a Cali 6, so that makes her like a Wyoming 8.
No, yeah, absolutely.
There is the sliding scale, though.
Yeah. Oh, and to be very specific, she's like a SoCal 8. So she's like.
Oh, yeah. Easily, she's a Wyoming 13.
Yeah. No offense to people in Wyoming, but y'all got some Wookiees.
No, plenty of offense to you people. How dare you? You know what you did.
I saw a girl that looked like Chewbacca up there once. So anyway, all right. So Keith, you're saying that takes her that takes her down to. So does it take her down to a Cali 6 or a standard 6?
Yes. We're already in Cali, so it's going to remain a Cali 6.
Yeah, for me, it takes her from just to a hard pass. I couldn't down to a 2, like a normal regular Earth person 2. I hate chamber empty carry. Like you have, and to me, it's even more offensive because you're doing everything else right. You've got the right gun.
Yeah, it makes the mistake worse.
You're an absolute smoke show of a human being. And then you're like, but I keep the chamber empty for safety. And I'm like, oh no, it's retarded. And even though those people can be Victoria's Secret models right now, I still don't want to bang them.
God, demonetized. We are off the
list. All right.
I always refer to that crowd as 9 to 5ers. 9 to 5. They're solid 9. They're so good, and you're like, and then something comes out, and you're like, ooh,
straight to a 5. Straight down. For me, it's like a 2. I can't do it. So anyway, guys, so this will either be a recurring segment or a whole episode that we're going to do. Sorry, I'm getting blown up right now on every messaging device I have about the Supreme Court decision. So anyway, this is going to be either a segment or maybe
what happened with the Supreme Court
episode of them, but send them in again, editor at gatdaily.com or gunnutsmedia@icloud.com, or drive to Jack's house and deliver them to him in a sweaty piece of paper that you pull out, and it's got like the cutout letters.
Manila envelope of memes.
All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there. Don't ever do that.
I want somebody to mail. All right, new challenge. Find Jack's address. Mail him a Manila envelope full of memes that you printed out.
I live in Georgia, which is very hot. I've already located it down for you guys. It's very hot. So during the daytime, it's quite often I won't wear a shirt. And despite my no soliciting sign, a gentleman came to my door to be like, do you want pest control? And I answered it with my pit bull on a leash. I didn't think about it because I was just hot. And I just went up, I'm like, what do you want?
That's
And it's
the
just
most
me
hood shit.
shirtless with a Glock in my holster in the waistband and my dog on the leash. I'm like, what do you want? The guy's like, absolutely nothing. You have a good day, sir. That's what I want right now is for you to have a good day. He said this backing off my porch. He was like, oh.
The guy's like, can I interest you in me leaving?
All of this
Oh,
is
my Lord.
hilarious if you actually know Jack or his dog, because his dog's adorable and old.
So basically, Jack answered the door like the villain in a mid-2000s LA cop show, Living in the Hood would. Like the officers roll up to your door and they know you're the neighborhood guy, and you're just there with your pit bull and your gun and you're shirtless. Like,
yep, they don't know
guy.
if they're gonna be getting information from Jack or bringing him in.
Oh yeah, perfect, fantastic. All right, so to pivot off of Jack threatening solicitors and us demeaning people who carry with an empty chamber, which for the record, if you carry with an empty chamber, you deserve to be demeaned or just buy a revolver. So anyway, today it's a good day, and we're actually going to release this episode the day that we record it, so it's a little bit more timely. Because today the Supreme Court decided in a 6-3 decision, largely down ideological lines, that New York's permit system for carrying a handgun outside of the home was unconstitutional, and that the state of New York can get fucked. I added that last part myself, although I think it might actually be in Alito's concurrence somewhere.
It may be paraphrasing Alito, but it's darn close.
Yeah. So actually, let's ask about that. Let's talk. So first, okay. So Keith, give us a real brief rundown on the decision, and then we're going to talk about some of the other like peripheral stuff around it.
Okay. So the decision, guys, if you've been following it, you know it's New York versus the Pistol Association. They sued for 2 individuals who were denied concealed licenses under New York state law because they didn't demonstrate additional need other than general self-protection. And this made it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's like, do you need to show additional need other than the desire to protect yourself in order to carry a handgun outside? Supreme Court 6-3 said, no, you do not need to show an additional special need of any sort outside of wanting to protect yourself with a handgun in order to carry a handgun. They did leave in place, in essence, what we saw today with the Supreme Court is the death of shall issue standards, where the state for any reason can look at you and say,
may issue.
Get fucked.
Or
may issue standards.
People were going to come for us in the comments if I didn't say so.
The death of the may issue standard. The state can no longer tell you to get fucked. We're the state. They have to have a reason written down that everybody can either make or not make based on objective criteria, which is shall issue standard, which is probably going to become the law of the land in short order for the few remaining states that had a may issue standard in place. Hawaii comes to mind. I think Cali's might be under threat. And obviously New York's is no longer a thing because Supreme Court said, nah.
So yeah, I would say that's a pretty solid rundown. I'll real briefly talk about, possible next steps. So it gets kicked back to New York. They have to fix their system basically.
New York has to amend their law.
Do I
have the legislature has work to do? Full
faith and credit that the state of New York will find some way to fuck over gun owners? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. I don't think we're going to get an Illinois 2.0 situation here where Illinois went from repressive may issue to on command shall issue basically overnight. I think New York's better at running a massive government than that. And
let's be fair. There's a lot of money, and by fair, I mean brutal. New York has a lot of money and influence tied up in the fact that they only allow certain people to carry guns. Mm-hmm. It is an old graft there. It is how a lot of people broker power through that city is, are you important enough to get a carry permit? And there's a whole rigmarole to it. There's a lot of testing, and it is basically who they deem worthy.
Right.
Like, and
Taylor Swift's bodyguards.
And it is the city. It's the city more than the state, because like 45% of the population lives in the city. And you're not almost going, half the state is the city.
You're not going to get a carry permit in New York City if you don't know enough people in real power positions. Mm-hmm. And that is frankly awful.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's a perfect example too. There was a scandal that came out, I want to say 2-3 years ago. It's probably longer because I'm getting old. About a, former New York City cop who was, retired out of the PD and then was one of the adjudicators for who gets carry permits. And he was basically selling these to rich people and being like, oh, you need a carry permit? Cool. It's, going to cost you blah, blah, blah. And he wasn't necessarily selling them for money, but he was selling them for access and for positions for himself.
It'll cost you a sizable donation to the police union.
Yeah.
Wank.
Or, I'll get you a carry permit, but I get to meet Taylor Swift. I don't know why I keep talking about Taylor Swift, but
this is not Jack's scheme. Come on.
Jack would be like, listen. You want machine guns? I get to touch one boob. Just one. No, but so I think I do think that the end result, whatever we get out of this, will be better than what New Yorkers, both in the state and in the city, had access to prior to this, because it would be almost impossible for it to be worse. However, what I do think is that so the only, I guess, bad thing I can say about the decision is they didn't, and they can't, because it's not the Supreme Court's job to do this, but it didn't explicitly establish what a reasonable standard is. It basically said, New York, you can't just have it be arbitrary. You can't just say it has to be this thing, and then you get to decide whatever that thing is in the heat of the moment, that you have to have a clear and explicit standard. So I assume that the state of New York will create a clear and explicit standard that's extremely difficult to reach, but we'll see.
And then that could be another lawsuit. We could see New York kind of acquiesce on this in order to try and keep other aspects away from Supreme Court lawsuits. Not that that's worked out great from them, but we could see a Illinois type. They could copy paste Illinois standard, which is fairly, Illinois standard's not easy because it's a 2-day requirement, 16 training hours. But Illinois created a very clear objective standard, and that's why it's stood so well. Mm-hmm. They're the most stringent in the Midwest, but it is an objective standard, and people were just kind of like, yep, that was the rule.
Yeah, I think that may be, you'll probably see something like that. You'll definitely see a training requirement. You'll see a bunch of other stuff. But again, speculation on how New York will react to this is just that, pure speculation.
And we saw the same thing with Heller, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah. The governor already came out and said her spit about it. She was frothing at the mouth and very angry that how dare they interfere with our lawmaking process, because we're so good at it that we forgot to ban the body armor of the shooter when we banned body armor to stop mass shootings.
Also, I really like how, and look, I'm not really Republican Democrat. I'm a fairly moderate guy, but I like how Democrats only care about state rights when, the Supreme Court says your gun laws are unconstitutional. But anyway, there's your one partisan joke for me. So Jack, what were you going to say about Heller?
Well, in Heller, when he won Heller went I think basically the next business day and attempted to get his carry permit. And they're like, nope, you can't do that. That's a semi-automatic handgun. We will only do it for revolvers now.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, all right, do you want to do this again? I just got done whooping your ass. And they were like, yes. And then 6 months later, they were probably like, no, we don't want that smoke. It was very expensive. These people are petty. They are tyrants. And they desperately are trying to keep their bribe money.
They really want their power base.
Yeah,
they really want it. They really want to be.
I will not be surprised if what they turn around and do is like, okay, you have to take care class. The class will be held twice a year.
Right.
It costs $10,000, and you got to go to this one place.
And it can only be taught by the New York State certified instructors, of which there are one.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite favorite state level money grabs is when you have a concealed carry permit system, shall issue, may issue, whatever, but the only people that can teach the class have to be state certified instructors that have to take a special class from the state. They can't just ruck up with their NRA instructor cert or a range master cert or fucking a USPSA M card or whatever. No, they have to go to the state class and take the state approved course to become a state approved instructor to teach concealed carry permits. And the reason why that is my actual least favorite one is because those instructors turn into fucking leeches. And I remember when Texas was passing constitutional carry, there were actual instructors who were opposed to constitutional carry because they didn't want their easy money nut to get cut off. They were like, this is my easy money, I teach these classes.
It's been the argument here in Michigan too. Every time constitutional carry makes it to the ballot or gets pushed as an issue in our legislature, the instructors who are making their nut off of this are coming out of the woodwork like, oh, but people be unsafe. We're not comfortable allowing this. And I'm like, you're not comfortable losing the fact that you can grift people for $200 a head right now. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, and aside, and we're getting a little far afield here, but I've never seen anything in a concealed carry basic class that makes me think that people who take it are going to be any more safe than people who have never who learned their fucking gun handling from Call of Duty. So
yeah.
All right. So that was really loud. That's gonna fuck up the audio. So moving on, not from the New York thing, but staying on that, I want to talk about. So I read Thomas's opinion, thought it was pretty good. Skimmed a little bit of the dissent. I really only got through like the first paragraph of the dissent because I'm like, why are they talking about this stuff? This has nothing to do with the actual thing.
The dissent came off very, very whiny and unrelated.
So, which then I read Alito's concurrence where he lit the entire dissent on fire. And that shit was amazing. That shit was that was like, Alito was like writing, quote, he was just like, he's like, this is going to be on Twitter in like 20 minutes. I'm going to light these bitches on fire. I mean, it was.
He took them to the woodshed.
Spicy.
He absolutely destroyed the dissent. Every single sentence is like, why are we talking about this? Why is this relevant? All we're doing is saying that New York needs an objective standard for licensing. That was the question. Our answer is yes. That's all we're saying. Why are you bringing this up? Why are you bringing that up? None of this matters to the question of should New York have an objective standard for issuance of concealed carry licensure, because you do have the right to carry a handgun outside your own property for protection, because you're protecting yourself. You're not protecting your property, you're protecting yourself.
Even threw in some shit about how the Second Amendment doesn't grant a right, it codifies an existing one. I was dick hard the whole time I was reading this. I'm like, oh damn. Like it was
his concurrence is awesome, and I think I will.
His concurrence was as good a level of fan service as the Obi-Wan Darth Vader lightsaber fight in the last episode of Kenobi. All right, that's how good that shit was. That shit was fire. Jack's making faces. Well, you didn't like?
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh,
I haven't either. But you haven't watched Top Gun.
Yeah, but I haven't seen Top Gun Maverick. But the problem is I have the internet, so I've seen all of the really good scenes from Top Gun Maverick at this point.
No, you haven't. You have not.
I have not.
You have not. I'm going to be dead honest.
Even a little bit.
So I'm going to spoiler alert right here. I'm not going to spoil the movie. I am going to tell you that the final bit of this movie is 80% hyper realistic for what they're doing. Like, and in Top Gun Maverick, they get to show you actual dog fighting. Like they can show you plane positions, and it's not just stock footage. It's really cool. And they talk about how support craft do things and the launch systems and all this stuff, like all of it's working together. And they're doing this fantastic job. And I'm like, this is great. This is so cool that they show that like these vessels do this and this does this. And then at a point, they're like, did you enjoy that? Was it a good time? You're like, yeah, that was kind of a good time. Like, good. From this point forward, it's wild bullshit. And I'm like, yay! Wild bullshit! And wild bullshit happens. It is only held back because a Gundam didn't show up at any point in this. I was losing my mind for the last 20 minutes.
Fantastic. Look, at some point,
beautiful.
Yeah, when it comes to whatever streaming platform, I'll actually pay money to rent it. But between a job, a toddler, wanting to actually spend time with my family, and like when I go, when I have free time, I'm gonna have some free time this weekend. I guess I could go see it, or I could go shoot 2 matches and then sleep. Because that's about, it. Anyway, back to, so I apologize to anyone who hasn't seen Kenobi, but there is, a lightsaber fight between Darth Vader and Kenobi in the final episode, and it's fucking fire. It's real goddamn good. Like, I was 8 years old again. It was fantastic. Anyway, and that's how I felt when I read Alito's concurrence today, was holy shit, he just lit these guys on fire, and that was amazing. And it really, and like, here's the thing, it was very much
Alito concurrence, the Force Unleashed.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. I have to say I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it because a lot of times with these concurrences or with these dissents, they are, and this applies to pretty much every Supreme Court opinion, they're often a politically motivated dissent. But this one was especially so because it didn't address the question that the Supreme Court was addressing. It was like, here are some stats about gun crime and stats about suicide and stats about this and that. I'm like, yeah, we all know those things, but what does that have to do with New York's licensing and permit system? Like, and they're not even, and here's the thing too, because I know that the internet's going to get a hold of this and they're going to be like, oh, well, they basically just turned New York City into the Wild West. I'm like, no, they fucking didn't. They didn't say anything about you can't have about permits themselves.
They didn't tell New York that they had to give extra guns to their citizens. They didn't change a single legal or illegal gun in the state of New York. They didn't change anything about New York's background check system, or anything like that. They didn't change any of the regulations governing sales or who legally can and can't have a pistol or any firearm in the state of New York. They just said, New York, your permitting system must be objective. You can no longer have a fuck you clause just because.
And let's be fair, they've never turned anything into the Wild West.
No, not even the Wild West.
Yeah,
there are what I think we're up to 26 constitutional carry states now. At least for residents. A lot of them are for non-residents as well, but at least for residents, I think we're up to 26. Like, none of those changes really moved the needle for any of those states. Like, there was crime prior to
25.
this, and then there was crime after this, and it was just what it had been.
Yeah, so there's 25 states that are constitutional carry.
Okay, they're looking at,
and it hasn't, and to your point, it hasn't really changed. Like, crime hasn't really changed in any direction.
It hasn't gone up, it hasn't gone down, and people are like, they can carry guns without a background check. I'm like, no, they can if they bought their gun at a federal licensed FFL, or if you're in a state where you have to do a pistol background check, like they did a background check. Otherwise, they're an unlawful possessor anyway.
Here's a dirty little secret too, for everybody that's worried about people carrying guns without permits. They were already doing that.
You mean that the words on the paper don't actually stop people from doing things?
Yeah, and I mean, then there's
Alito
also
put that in his concurrence too.
Yeah,
he's straight up called out, like, do the people of New York believe? Do the dissenters and the people of New York believe this stops anybody?
Well, and then there's Jack's. There's Jack's unofficial rules of concealed carry, which is everywhere is constitutional carry if you ain't a bitch.
Right. Look. I've been to the worst places. I did what I did to get through there. I don't see it as an issue.
We at Gunday Brunch are not advocating for you breaking any laws or anything like that. Jack might be. What I am going to say is everywhere is constitutional carry if your concealment's good enough. And if you're looking for good concealment, please check out the products from our friends at Philster.
They're good at that.
Oh man, I actually said that to John and Sarah. I was talking to them like, your unofficial motto should be the whole world's constitutional carry if your concealment's good enough. All right, anything else on the Supreme Court? Anybody got any last thoughts you want to add, Jack?
We're coming for you, NFA. We're coming for you, and hell's coming with us.
I wish. I
think we're gonna get magazines though. I'm hoping we get mags.
I would just like
stop fucking making it 10 rounds. It doesn't matter. It's dumb. Stop it.
Hey, on that mag thing, guys, if you're trying to prove that mag capacity restrictions are arbitrary and capricious, don't post videos of you doing sub-2 speed reloads to demonstrate your point. That actually doesn't help at all. That's like somebody
you should
being
post
like
reload videos of Caleb on a 7-shot.
So that I was actually going to make a Jerry comment. I'm like, that would be like somebody being like, revolvers are less dangerous than semi-automatics, and then posting a video of Jerry as their proof. So let's cut this shit out. Yeah, I would love to see the mag restrictions go away because it is so arbitrary and capricious. You know, I've been covering this for my other job. The state of Colorado just lost the USPSA Nationals, which is going to bring 400, 500 people to a region of the state that does not get a lot of tourism over the state's magazine ban. So that's an interesting one. And now that's put other matches in jeopardy at the Cameo shooting complex as well. So that's like, if you guys want to follow my ongoing coverage of that story, go to tacticallife.com. That's tactical-life.com. Anyway, that's it for this week, guys. Thank you everyone for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing. I haven't looked at the analytics lately because I've been overseas, but Google Podcast Guy, I hope you're still there. Please continue.
Google Podcast Guy is eternal. We know who he is.
Please continue to send us memes and definitely send us your she's a 6 but stories or questions like that. And they can go in both directions. So for example, you could have one that's like, she's a 4, but her dad has a machine gun collection that he will let you shoot anytime you come over to see his daughter. Things like that.
Also all transferable and looking for a place to go.
Yeah.
That was my ex-girlfriend, except she was closer to a 7, but yeah.
Closer to 7. Okay. Like a real 7. All right. So anyway, that's it for this week, guys. Thank you everyone. And we will be back next week with another episode of Gunday Brunch.